How's it going? In this video, I'm going to show you how to conduct the most important conversation that you are going to have in your sales process. Now, a lot of times people think that that most important conversation is going to be the demo or maybe the closing part, but I'm here to tell you that the sale is actually made in the discovery. And this is why you need to focus all your efforts in the beginning on being able to develop the skills to do a good discovery. So a discovery is a conversation you have with the potential customer before the demo, where you discuss or discover some problems or issues or pain points that they may have. Understanding the customer's particular pain points is super important because this is what you're going to be talking about and showing them the solutions to during the demo. Typically, you're not going to make a sale unless you have a very good understanding of the customer's problems, because sales don't really work out if you just throw, features at the wall and see what sticks, right? So you really want to customize your conversation during the demo to the customer. And in order to do that is you have to do a very good discovery, understanding their problems. So realistically, you're not going to be able to develop super great discovery skills without actually talking to customers and getting punched in the face. So watching YouTube videos like this one probably won't be able to just replace that experience for you. So my goal in this video will be to really help you shorten that amount of time where you are getting punched in the face, to help you avoid a lot of mistakes and also put you on the right track. One thing to understand that your job as a salesperson is your job is not to be convincing people to buy your product, right? You're not in the convincing game. Your job as a salesperson is to understand if this person's problem is a problem that your solution can solve, right? Sometimes your job is also to help this person understand if this person even has a problem at all, because they may not even know. But think about it like this: you're not convincing someone to do anything. You're matching their problem with your solution, and you are the expert at your solution. Okay, so if you come like it from that perspective or that lens, this will help you become better at discovery. One thing you want to really avoid doing is offering a solution in the middle of the conversation, right? So imagine yourself, if you're sick or you have a lot of symptoms, you go to a doctor and you say maybe half of the first symptom, and the doctor offers you a drug to take. They already have a solution for you. How are you going to feel? You're going to feel like you're not heard. You're going to feel like the doctor doesn't understand you. You're going to feel like that drug doesn't work, right? Maybe he has a different agenda. So you want to make sure that you really understand the customer and all their pain points and the reasons behind it before you offer any sort of solution. So a really good book that I read when I was developing my sales process and working on my discovery was a book called Spin Selling. And SPIN is an acronym for a bunch of different types of questions. And without getting into it, if I were to give you the 2-second clip notes of this book, is that there's certain types of questions that you can ask. And the point of these questions is for you to understand the problem, develop that problem deeper so you have a really big pain point, and then ask questions on what that solution would look like and what the benefit of solving that problem would look like, right? So what you're doing is you're just really enlarging this problem to a point where it's big enough where that they want to solve it, and then they can see like the future of solving this problem. Really quick example of this. Let's pretend like someone was selling me, let's say this neck pillow here that goes on my chair, right? And they may ask something, they may start something small, like, okay, like tell me a little bit about how you use your chair, how long do you sit in it for, what kind of work do you do? And, I might say, oh yeah, I sit in it for 8 hours a day, right? And they might say, oh, okay, does not having a neck pillow affect anything? And you go, oh, it's not a big deal. Oh yeah, I get kind of sore here, right? And say, oh, okay, you get kind of sore. Is that because you're in an uncomfortable position? It's like, yeah. It's like, okay, so are you in that position for 8 hours a day? Oh yeah, I think so. Okay, like how does that affect your posture, right? Oh, you know what? I actually noticed that I'm a little bit slumped over now. Okay, so does that affect your posture kind of in your other parts of your life as well when you're just standing around? Yeah, I think so. Okay. Does that posture affect maybe, how people view you or how like the vibe you give off? Yeah, kind of, right? Oh yeah, I see that. Okay. Do you think that affects your life socially? It's like, yeah, I'm trying to get a girlfriend right now and it kind of makes me feel not as confident in myself. It's like, oh, okay, is having a girlfriend important to you? It's like, yeah, it is, because I'm trying to get married. Okay, so then, how would life be like if you were married, right? That'd be great, because I want to have kids, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm trying to understand all this stuff. So you kind of see where I'm going with this, right? I go from something small to really understanding the big picture for this person, right? So now when I'm selling you this neck pillow, I'm not really selling you a neck pillow. I'm selling you this future of you being able to get married, right? And obviously I'm exaggerating here, but that's really what you want to do when you're discovering, is really understanding the problem and really understand the effects of that problem and really understanding what life would be like if that problem was solved, and just help that person get there. So this conversation I just had with myself on the neck pillow, you can have with yourself as well with your product. And then you want to write down the types of questions you're asking yourself. And if you want to read the book Spin Selling to kind of define those questions, you can. I don't want to do in this video because it's a little bit too complex, but it is actually really easy. So check that book out, and you kind of write these questions down. And just keep in mind, no two conversations you're going to have with people are going to be exactly the same. So it's very hard for you to write a word-for-word script, but you should have questions in the back of your mind because it's all going to be kind of very similar, right? Because you're selling a similar product to similar types of people. So the best way for you to get good at discovery is going to be to practice and then do a discovery on a real person, and then listen to the recording, and then look at your notes, figure out what you could have said better, and then practice, and then try it on a real person again. So that's the best and probably only way to get good at discovery. But what I'm going to give you now is a couple of tips that I think are super helpful for you to shorten this time frame on where you're trying to get better at discovery. The biggest thing that I probably took me a while to figure out is that when you discover a problem, it doesn't mean that people actually want to solve it. So discovering a problem is not enough, right? So let's say, for example, you probably have a bunch of problems right now, right? Maybe, like my leg hurts right now, right? But I'm not going to go to the doctor to solve it because it'll probably get better and it doesn't bother me enough, right? So that's a problem that I have, but I'm not going to solve it. So when you're discovering these problems for people, don't just assume they're going to buy your solution because they don't have that need. So what you need to get them to say is an explicit need. And what that is I want to do this. It would be great if I could do this, right? And then once they say that, then you know that your solution can be presented. So another really useful way when you're asking questions and you want to guide the conversation along is you can use leading questions, right? And what that is really is when you ask a question and you give them multiple choice answers to that question. Number one, that helps them do less mental work, right? And number two, you can do things like this, where let's say a good way I like to use this is, let's say you sell a product and they don't even know that this is a solution is possible, right? And they're probably doing something the old school way, and that's all they know. So if you say, hey, how are you doing this right now? And they go, oh, we're doing it this way. It's super easy, right? And that's it. That's the whole conversation. They don't know any better. So what you might say is oh, how do you do this? Do you do it this shitty current A number one? Do you do this shitty current way number B or number two? Or do you do this really cool way that we happen to do? But I'm not saying that we do it, but it's this really cool way. Maybe you press the button, everything's done, right? They go, oh, we're doing it the first way. And now in their mind, though, now they say, oh, there's actually a third way to do it. I haven't thought about that. And you're implanting this idea in their mind very subtly. And then later on, when you ask more questions, you can unravel how shitty that current type 1 process is. This last tip that I have for you is super awesome. And it took me many years to find this. I didn't make it up. I found it from someone on LinkedIn. But I've been doing this, or my team's been doing this for the last 2 years or so, and it's super effective. And it's going to be the intro to how you start your discovery call. And I've started a lot of different ways, and I found this to be the best, and I'll explain why. And before that, I'll explain why the intro discovery call is super important. And that's because typically what's happening is during discovery is you're reaching out to the customer, you're trying to sell them something, right? But you're trying to get them to give you information, and all they want is for you to give them information. So the goal of the discovery is to not talk about your product at all, but really understand what the customer has problems with. But if you're selling something new, or they don't really know what you do, and they just agree to take this call for you, it's very difficult for you to start asking questions. And another thing is, it's very difficult for the person to even want to open up to you because they have their guard up. So I'll go ahead and read you the script, and then I'll go back and we can break it down line by line on why I think this script is super effective. But let's start here. So the intro would go like, hey, glad we could connect. I have us down for about 15 minutes or so. Does that time frame still work for you? Okay. The purpose of this call is really just to determine whether or not we are potentially a fit to work together in the future. And even if we can help you, not everybody is a fit for what we do, and vice versa. Naturally, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of questions for me about what we do, which I'm happy to answer. And then, of course, I'll probably have a number of questions for you as well, just to, some of them may be direct, just to ensure that we're a fit. Would that be okay? Okay, great. So, Mr. Prospect, just to give you some context about my role here at company, I speak to probably 4 to 5 owners, or whatever your title is, pretty much every day. And they share a lot of things with me, what they're trying to accomplish, what their goals are, what they're concerned about. And it can range from anywhere from problem number 1, problem number 2, or problem number 3. Does that sound like your role at all, or do you guys have this all figured out? Okay, so let's go back and kind of go line by line on why I think this is super effective. So the first line is saying, hey, I have us down for about 15 minutes. Does that time frame still work for you? That's pretty standard. That's probably in everyone's script. You're just making sure that the time frame you've allotted, that they can still work. Because if they have less time or more time, it's good for you to know that, right? And you start by saying the purpose of this call is to determine whether or not we are potentially a fit to work together in the future, or even if we can help. Not everybody's a fit for what we do and vice versa. So by saying this, you're basically just letting them know, hey, like, this is just preliminary. We're just trying to figure out if there's a fit or not. There's no pressure, right? We might not even be able to help you. So we're really just trying to figure out if we can even help, right? And then you're letting them know, hey, naturally, I know you have a lot of questions, which I'm happy to answer. So letting them know, hey, you can ask me questions. But at the same time, I'm going to ask some questions as well. And of course, I probably have a number of questions for you, some of which may be direct in order to show that we're a fit. Would that be okay? So you're basically asking permission to ask questions, and everyone will say yes to this, right? Now you have permission to ask questions. This next line, I think, is the most genius part of the entire script. And this is where they say, hey, prospect, just giving you some context about my role here at this company. I speak to probably 4 to 5 owners or whatever your title is pretty much every day, okay? So what I had just done is I'm saying, hey, person, I talk to people like you every single day, and I know all about that world, right? So I'm pretty much flexing my, my knowledge without really saying anything, right? And then I go on to say, they share a lot of different things with me about what they're concerned about, what they're hoping to accomplish. It ranges from anywhere and then specifically I would say problem 1, problem 2, problem 3, and these are all problems that my product sells or my product can solve, right? And these are very specific things that only someone that talks to people like you every day really understand. So I'm kind of subtly letting you know that I'm an expert without having to say it, right? And then my last question is, does this sound like your world at all? Or do you have it all figured out? Obviously, you don't have it figured out because you're talking to me, right? And they would say, yeah, I have problems with problem number 1, right? And then I start the conversation there, right? So this whole script is really for you to start the conversation and have them start with a problem. And that will make your entire conversation so much easier, right? Because I said, hey, prospect, hey, how you doing? Can we talk for 15 minutes today? Do you have problems with problem 1? No. Okay. Do you have problems with problem 2? No. Okay. And then what? Do you have problems with problem number 3? No. Okay. And then we're stuck, right? And then you ask two or three of those in a row, and they say no, then you're just stuck. And what are you going to say next? So the flow of the conversation is very important, and having them start on a topic that they want to talk about is probably one of the most important things you can do. So these tips I just gave you and the structure I just gave you, especially that last tip, I think probably just save you like a year of you trying to figure things out. But what I recommend is just go back, absorb some of that information, try it out, and then reiterate, and then continue to do that until you feel like you're good at your discovery. So I hope this helps. Once again, if you take anything away from me from any of these videos, just remember the sale is made in discovery. Sale is made in discovery, and you have to absolutely kill the discovery to make the sale. Hope this helps. Talk to you next video. Subscribe, please.